Welcome to the Inshore Fisheries Conservation Authority meeting on Thursday the 9th of February. We'll start off with agenda item 1, declarations of interest.
Commercial fisherman, Chairman.
A hobby fisherman, Chairman.
Thank you. Now then, what I'm going to do, agenda item 2, is to approve the minutes. Kate Sugar's delayed on a flight and hopefully will be here in the next hour. So I'm going to leave agenda item 2 here until the end of the meeting, or when Kate arrives, if that's okay with members. Okay. Urgent items. Nothing really. I'd just like to report that Paul Walmsley is in place and everything is going fine. He is on an enforcement training mission at the moment. Doug is on annual leave. They both give their apologies. They both wanted to attend this meeting and asked me to change it to another date, which I said it was not possible. So they did try everything to be at this meeting, but unfortunately they're not. So that is my urgent items out of the way.
Chairman, may it be possible just to pull the committee together informally at some point, the ones who live locally, just to introduce us to the new officer? Because I think that might be helpful, really.
Definitely.
Thank you.
We did actually informally have him, at the last meeting, introduced him. Paul?
Yeah, but it might be nice just to renew that contact.
All right, we'll do that on the next meeting. So, part 1, reports requiring a decision. The budget monitoring, and I'll hand you to Diana.
Yeah. Thank you. This is the budget monitoring report for the IFCA. You'll see that the IFCA budget is here. You'll see from the budget that the salary line, as you would expect, is down, but this has been partially pushed back by the increase in goods, supplies and services. The salary budget will now be level placed because we now have a full complement of staff in place. There are some additional costs because we've had to undertake all the training for Paul, so things like the enforcement training, which he has to have to be able to enforce, and they only do it once a year in February. So that's why he couldn't be here today. So he's in somewhere northern doing that. I can't tell you precisely where. I do know it's somewhere. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm also proposing that we set the levy for the council proportion of the bill, which is 14,000 for the controllable costs, and then 13,000, which we've never charged you really in the levy, but is our uncontrollable costs for the support we give through committee, finance, HR, those kinds of things.
The one point I'd like to make there, Diana, on 2.4, if we can add on the £5,000 excess if needed, as it's always been in place. Are members happy for that? Yep.
Are there any questions?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Just would like to know the reason why we're overspent by 10.5 grand and we're already previously overspent.
There is a reason. If you would like Diana to tell you.
Yes, please.
The overspend is largely due to the legal case that we had to take. So there were over £8,000 costs, which we're now getting paid back. So the £8,000 overspend here is directly linked to that legal activity. That money will come back in the fines that the people will pay back. So that's coming in each year, and that will accrue back into this year's accounts. So actually, without that, we'd be underspent.
Okay. Amanda.
I was just going to propose that we note, as in the recommendation, that we note the revenue budget.
The recharge and depreciation of 13,000 accountable services.
Yeah.
You say you don't normally charge that.
Well, no, we show them.
Yeah.
But the council picks up that cost through its ordinary revenue budget, so it's not a cost to the IFCA. So the £109,000, it's the £109,000 grant from DEFRA is spent entirely on IFCA activities.
Right, so I suppose it swings and roundabouts, is it? Yeah, I'm just thinking that the state of council finances, whether we ought to factor in that we will have to pay that.
We factor it into our overall budget, but the IFCA costs what the IFCA costs to run.
Yeah.
And my view is that, to be honest, we've kept the levy stable at about 14,000, and that works. I think if we were to try and cut it significantly lower, I think it would be difficult for the IFCA to do the work that it does.
Any other questions? No?
So the IFCA hasn't been looked at in the savings rounds that we're going through at the moment. Yeah. No. The IFCA, we've kind of ring-fenced the IFCA just because, A, the most significant proportion of the money comes from grant anyway, but B, because legally the IFCA levies the council, so you're in a completely different position than any other part of the council, in that legally we have to give you whatever you ask for. So, yeah, so it swings and roundabouts, so there's really very little point. Yeah.
Okay, so can we have a proposer then for the... Sorry, Michael.
I propose.
Right.
And I shall second.
Those in favour? Wonderful, thank you for that. 5, the website. I think it's a fantastic idea and I totally endorse everything. Tim's done a fair old bit of work on this already with Kate Sugar and 1 or 2 other bodies, and I'm going to hand you over to Tim to explain a little bit more about it.
Yeah, this started at a meeting I had about a year and a half ago with Sangeeta McNair from Natural England, who suggested that one of the slight weaknesses in all our nice local agreements that work really well was that it's not out there and it's not easy for people to access. We've been fairly busy in the last year, and what with our chief officer being on 2 days a week, it seemed to be something that was pushed in the back shelf sort of thing. And I've now been talking to Kate about it and to Paul, our new chief officer, who both agree that this is something that needs addressing. At the moment, just to give you a clue, we haven't got any problems with our local agreements with the fishing community. The commercial fishing community is very easy because it's easy to know who they are, get hold of them, and all the local agreements tend to work. However, even with them, there are 1 or 2 that come to me and ask me questions about where's this area, where's there an MCZ? They've forgotten it over the years, so even they've forgotten it. But more importantly, in protection of wildlife, this would involve more than the IFCA, because, for example, the Wildlife Trust have various pieces of island that are closed to visitors to protect the seals, seabirds and such as, and that needs to be on the website. And also it needs to, I don't know if anyone remember, but we had agreed and we drew up some local code of conducts for people like powerboat users, divers, snorkelers. We did all of those, and they've all sort of disappeared into the paperwork and been buried. And one of the awkward things is that there are a number of us in the dive industry and some of the boating industry that have been going around explaining to people why they shouldn't be chasing seals off rocks and why they shouldn't be doing something to seabird floating out there. And one of the things when you do educate people, let's say, is that the first thing that gets asked now is, where's that written down? So it obviously does need to be out there somewhere. Kate Sugar suggested that we do a joint organisation with the AONB on this, because some of it involves their territory and some of it I know all the players. I know who we got the local agreements from in the past, in terms of the code of conducts written. And I would propose that to help Paul out, who doesn't know all of the players, that we call a meeting of the Marine Protection Area Working Group and make sure we invite all the said people along to update their code of conducts. And we then, the general idea of having a website, and Kate Sugar actually suggested that we ought to have a separate website that's just primarily a very simple website that won't cost a lot, that primarily just puts all the do's and don'ts of boating, diving, fishing, hobby fishermen in one place that people can find. And the idea being is that we would purchase some small business cards with just the information, the website on there. The idea of this is, in the past we have tried to do such a thing many years ago with leaflets, but leaflets are really expensive and they don't keep up with the modern day of moving. We're in a fluid situation and these local agreements may change and whatever. It's very easy to alter a website. Anyway, that's where we are. If anyone's got any questions, can come back to me.
Amanda?
Yeah, I support this completely. I think it's long overdue in many ways. And I would also, small point, be very happy to link to it from the museum website if that helps get the word out in any way. We discussed this sort of thing at I've forgotten the name of the meeting, Diana, what was it? Highland Futures, talking about websites and applications for Scilly where people join in and get the word out. So I think this fits in wholly with that. And the more joined up thinking there is and getting the message out, the better for everybody, I would have thought. So I will propose the recommendation. And thank you for your hard work.
I was going to suggest we also link with the PSPO, because the Public Spaces Protection Order that we did for dogs and dogs on leads and all of that thing worked with the Wildlife Trust and covered many of the off-islands, so we can link through to that as well.
Robert? No problem. Those in favour of the website? Wonderful, unanimous. Thank you very much for that. Right, we're in a precarious position now because Kate still hasn't turned up. So, agenda item 7, I'm going to hand you over to the MMO. David Milligan.
News in the MMO, what's concerning us quite a lot at the moment internally is we've got a new system that's been introduced this year for the recording of data, fisheries data, which will affect buyers and sellers of fisheries products, but also some of the larger vessels. The smaller vessels who don't use e-logs are unlikely to be affected, but that's coming in. It's we're basically ditching all our existing systems, and this will be coming in. It keeps on being put back, but at the moment it's looking like it's going to be June, July. We're expecting to come on board with that. So we'll be having to contact buyers and sellers on the islands to let them know that this is happening. That would include restaurants and buyers of fish, who especially those who use our online systems. Item 2, the demersal landing obligation has been introduced since last year. That's now in place. Again, I don't think that there are many boats on Scilly who are directly affected by that. Some of the larger, I think the trawlers may well be affected. I don't know. But all that information is now out there. There's been extra species have been added to the lists. That must be landed. If anybody wants specific information on that, they need to contact the MMO directly. Specific advice will be given their situation. IVMS is continuing with conjunction with the IFCAs. There's nothing particularly new about that.
Can I just come in on that, David, please? Just something. I mean, in paragraph 3 there, it might be worth reminding members that an amendment to our fishing gear permit bylaw on the IVMS being fitted to local boats was rejected at the last lot of minutes, which was the IFCA 4716. We only have one bottom fishing trawler, and it was agreed that we would monitor it on AIS. I just wanted to remind members that, because that's what we actually passed on this issue. But obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
If you can note that, please.
I shall make note of that. So it would only affect one of your trawlers?
We've only got one bottom fishing trawler, and we said we would monitor it on AIS. I mean, until a national order comes from DEFRA, then we'll adhere to it. But
yes,
until that comes in, we're happy with what we said at the last meeting. I just think it's worth noting.
I would concur with that, Mr. Chairman, because I objected very strenuously on the last meeting, because I thought it would be a huge expense in percentage terms for likes of myself or Robert to pay £500,000 a year for something that's unnecessary. There's no areas we aren't allowed to fish, so why bother to monitor us? Whereas, bottom trawling is another matter entirely.
Okay. I'll clarify the MMO's position on that next time I'm here, and see where we are with the project. MPA management. Basically, the work is continuing along with IFCAs to manage the Blue Belt and work towards the Blue Belt commitment. 27 new bylaws and 13 voluntary measures, and 15 more bylaws expected to be needed. MMO and IFCAs continue to consult on all proposed bylaws before seeking approval from the Secretary of State. And EMFF, we've got 4.8 million of funding, which has been offered to 6 local fisheries local action groups under the EMFF fund. This funding will enable the Cornwall as the lead flag to take forward their local development strategies to benefit and develop fisheries in coastal communities.
All right, thanks for any questions to David? No. Right, well, I've never been in this situation before, so I'm going to deal with it my way. Sorry, Amanda, did you?
I was going to say, do we need to formally note the recommendation? Or?
No, it's just to note, so, okay. What I'm going to do is, obviously, I don't know if Kate's in the air, Kate's council, Kate's not here, so the minutes for this meeting we'll approve at the next meeting, because she's definitely got an amendment to it, unless you want to approve them with her amendments, but we don't know what they are, so I don't know what advice to take on that. Are members happy to approve this set of minutes themselves with Kate's amendment and then be noted, informed what the minutes note? Yes?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
I had an amendment, Mr. Chairman, on Kate's notes, very small. It says, N. Jenkins asked about the possible implications of the extension of the SPA onto land, and I think, as I understand it, the SPA potentially is off the land into the sea, and that was the implications I was interested in, the extension off the land rather than on the land.
Okay.
With that further amendment, I'm happy to propose these.
Okay, we've got a seconder for that?
Second, Chairman.
Lovely. Those in favour? And I will definitely make sure that every member is notified by email of Kate's, what it is she wants to put in the minutes, okay? So, that brings us back to agenda item 6, which we can't deal with because Kate's not here. So, we'll just read it for information for now. And I will close the meeting at 10 to 10. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
There's nothing you can do, is there?